2023 Auburn University Marching Band. For your halftime entertainment, we celebrate the 43-year reign of the Speed Metal Kings, Metallica. With 9 Grammy Awards and 14 nominations, 38 concert tours worldwide, and 11 studio albums that span 4 decades, the Titans of Thrash remain the standard by which all other metal is measured. We begin with a 1984 classic from their second album, For Whom the Bell Tolls, followed by the 1992 tour anthem, Wherever I May Roam. And then, let's turn down the house and light up the stage with the Auburn University Marching Band and their show, Metallica.
Well, boys and girls, July 1st has arrived. Auburn and Nike have officially begun. And you know, when we enter to the realm of Auburn uniforms, Auburn aesthetics, and history, there's one fool that's going to be here on this show. I know y'all been looking forward to this one. So have I. It's the Super Bowl of Auburn uniforms. Let's go ahead and jump into the chat today. Everything you need to know, Auburn and Nike, Q&A time, all that coming up right now. War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together. We sit down and talk about that Auburn experience, which is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, Auburn family stuff. If it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So thank you so much for joining us in what we're going to be doing this evening on our live stream portion of the show. We're going to be chatting with, you guessed it, Clint Richardson of the Auburn Uniform Database, back with us today to talk the official beginning of Auburn and Nike. We're going to talk about the things that you need to know, answer some questions, and get into it all. My very first thing for you, Clint, is hello, and how are you doing today?
I'm ready for a nap, Kyle. It's been a day. It's been 2 days. Yeah. Like I said on Twitter, if I look completely exhausted, just mind your own business.
Well, I am very thankful that you found time to stay awake, squeeze us in, and talk it. Because can I just, give you a little bit of congratulations today? You have been quite the celebrity for the last 48 hours, and a lot of people have garnered your expertise, your opinions, your thoughts on all this stuff. So it is. I know we throw this term around a lot here on this topic, that this is going to be your Super Bowl. But I mean, it really was. This is like the day that you've been preparing for to discuss a major. This is like if Auburn busted out the orange uniforms. Did I say that? I'm going to stir people up already.
We'll get to that.
Does it feel like a Super Bowl, Clint? I know we use it a lot, but is that what it feels like?
It does. When the white face mask got announced a couple of years ago at Penn State, some people were joking like, this is your Super Bowl. This is the first alternate uniform that Auburn had really worn, other than like the gray face mask, the Pat Sullivan tribute in 2019, that kind of stuff. This trumps that on so many levels, and we don't even have any uniforms at this point.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that kind of weird that I want to stress this. You warned people when you were here. You didn't say anything specific, but I think it was 2 shows ago that the day of July 1st may have been something to not, I want to say get excited about, but to not build up in everyone's heads, because I think what happened today, what transpired, we'll talk about it, obviously was left a little bit to be desired. However, it's still a big celebration day, because Auburn has officially switched from Under Armour to Nike July 1st, effectively into a 10-year deal. So I want to start right there, Clint. I'm sure questions are going to be pouring in throughout the show. We'll be answering some of those, so you guys can get involved in the chat. Please smash the like button as you come in as well. But let's start right there. What is the main things that people need to know about Auburn and Nike day one, and look what we think we know, what we think we can speculate on going forward?
So as you said, today's day one of a 10-year deal, and that's as much as we know about the contract. The contract was signed with Tigers Unlimited, not Auburn Athletics or Auburn University like past deals were. The reason why is Tigers Unlimited is legally a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and they are not subject to Freedom of Information Act requests. They are not subject to public records at all. So I did request when the announcement was made last April, got denied. Obviously, a lot of other people got denied. So we have absolutely no idea what the financials look like, where it ranks among other college apparel deals. There's some belief that because it's private like this, that maybe it was a little less money than some other schools, or that it was actually a lot more, and neither party really wanted to give away those details. So that's a really iffy way to do this, and I think you're going to see a lot more schools move this route in the future, especially during this NIL period. So that's what we've got on the contract side.
Mm-hmm.
On everything else, today was the first day of officially being in Nike school. We'll talk about it later, but I think Auburn did a really good job of honoring the last days of the Under Armour contract and not saying anything Nike-wise until today, and sending off Under Armour in a good way. But it's just, there's so much going on. Where do you want to go from this?
I know, no, you could take it 1,000 different ways. It's a big, broad question, but certainly that's what we want people to know. Today is a celebration of the beginning of a new relationship. You probably saw a lot of the staff, coaches, and other members of certain programs starting to share their gear, all the way from Coach Hugh Freeze. We saw clips of every program being represented. They just released, I think, about 30 minutes ago, another kind of combined clip of every aspect of Auburn athletics, every program doing something with a piece of Nike gear. They even, I was like, what are they going to do with the swimming one? And then they had the little slides sitting right there as someone came up from a swimming thing. So everybody was represented. This is equestrian as well, obviously. This is across the board a day of celebration for Auburn, 10-year deal. So let me ask you this within this topic we're discussing. Do you think this sees another 10-year deal? I know we're just sitting here at the beginning of it, but does this seem like something that's going to stop after 10 years?
No, I don't think so. Believe it or not, Kyle, I got asked that on a different show earlier today.
Oh, did you?
I did. So, and I'll tell you the exact same thing I told them. I think that 10 years is a really good timeline for these kind of deals. You get to kind of test out everything, but also in 10 years, values are going to change tremendously. We don't know what the landscape of college football or college athletics period is going to look like in 10 years. So it kind of gives both entities an out, not an out, but an opportunity to Auburn to get more money, Nike to spend less money, whatever comes about it at that point. I don't see, this is very much like moving your house. It's a nightmare behind the scenes. There are so many moving parts that nobody is ever going to see. We've got to get rid of every single piece of Under Armour apparel in the equipment room, in the every single locker, in the athletic department, every single place on campus that is Auburn athletics or adjacent has to get rid of all that Under Armour apparel. Every logo on the dugouts, on the banners on the outfield, on the banner at Jordan-Hare Stadium, on the scoreboard, the walkway signs on the concourse at every stadium, those had to all be replaced. That's not as simple as just swapping the logo on the chest. So this is not something you want to do every year. Absolutely not. It's not something you really want to do every decade. I mean, we see teams do this kind of back and forth on like maybe a 5-6 year plan. If you look at Rutgers, if you look at Miami, they've kind of gone back and forth between Nike and Adidas at times. I don't think most people ever want to do it that.
Yeah, obviously you go into these deals, probably you make this big change with the hope that it continues on, but certainly 10 years is a long time to reevaluate things and make sure you are getting the best thing. And I think that's the thing that I want to reiterate with folks. I've been very clear about my personal opinions about this, that I was not a fan of the change, but I also recognize that what I want may not be what's best for Auburn. And so I think that's what you have to kind of walk away from in this and ask yourself is what you want, what's best for Auburn. Clearly the powers that be, that's a very thrown around phrase these days, but they see some stability, financial gain, recruiting, we'll get there. all of those things play into why this change was made. And obviously, we sit here now at the beginning of a 10-year deal, waiting to see what's going to happen next. But really, that's the bulk of what we know today outside of this. And this is probably a great time to transition into this part. And I see a bunch of y'all's questions coming in. Trust me, I'm saving them. We're going to get to some of those favorite questions. So y'all keep them pouring in. The big thing today, Clint, was a lot of people had convinced themselves, I think, that other than just being a celebration, Auburn and Nike's July 1st day was going to be everybody rushing to the markets online and in store, and it was just going to be flooding. And whether you meant to or not, on a previous stream, I believe you did say something to the effect of just temper your expectations. So you did try to warn people, at least give a little bit of a hint. I remember that. So please, folks, when Clint says something or gives you a hint, you might want to believe it.
I know what I'm talking about sometimes.
It's July 25th is now the date that online and in-store Nike stuff will go on sale, including the reopening of the team shop downtown. We do have some explanations about why that is, but I want to hear it from you and what your thoughts are about today, because some people were frustrated at saying the release was botched. What do you think?
It's hard not to agree with that sentiment that this was kind of a fumble of a release. But I think the context helps a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the time, whenever this kind of transition happens, the team announces we're going to a new provider on this date. That day comes, they showcase the new uniforms, they showcase the new merchandise, and they have it available for purchase almost immediately. That's the way it should be done, bar none. Everybody can do that. Why can't Auburn? But it's just, we got some information from Auburn Athletics today that essentially they didn't want to play favoritism in this store gets merchandise, but this store's shipment was delayed. And I very much so understand that. We want everybody to be on the same playing field. This is a huge deal, market-wise, business-wise. There's a lot of money that's going to be spent around, and you don't need fanatics to have all the product when the Auburn team store on campus doesn't, or J&M doesn't, or the Academy Sports in Opelika doesn't. So I definitely get that. I do think it's a little misguided that there weren't product images and listings released online so that we could at least have pre-orders. Again, that might play into some favoritism to some online stores instead of brick and mortars.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of outsource the mom and pop shops that might be carrying some stuff, but you got to feed your fans something, and they've been itching and dying to spend their hard-earned money on your product for over a year now. And not having any information up front was kind of disappointing. I don't want to say we got it through a back way, but it wasn't an official announcement. And that's going to leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth.
If you want a further explanation for that, I won't read the whole thing here because it'll take a little bit of time for my slow self to read through it. But obviously, Rhett Hobart is one of the leads of the fan experience side of Auburn Athletics, and he's a great resource for sharing stuff about examples of this, where there's maybe some confusion about things. He's very open and sharing some of this. Clint explained some of what is explained in that. We have shared that post. I think Clint has also shared that post as well, explaining why this feels maybe botched, or maybe in some people's minds, or maybe this didn't feel as well planned. Sometimes the best laid plans just don't work out, and you have to kind of do what you can do best to make all parties work out for it.
I think I want to give Rhett a lot of credit for being transparent on this. Thank you, Rhett, for doing that. That
absolutely
suited a lot of frustrations that a lot of people had today. Let's go back to, I think it was 2017, 2018. Mm-hmm. The shoes that Nike or that Under Armour was releasing that had the AU logo on the shoe for the first time got stuck. The ship sank in the ocean. Product got delayed by months. So when things hit the fan, it hits the fan. So not saying that that's what happened here, but that
you just don't know.
There is a global logistics production system in play. And for some reason, it seems like Auburn got the short shaft on that.
Yeah,
I'm not well versed enough in that world. This is the first time I've ever heard of something like this, so I would like to talk to Rhett and some other people and figure out some more details about that. But this one's unique for sure. And let's go to this real quick, because this was a hot topic earlier, and I think part of it was my fault. Today was also Rutgers Day for returning to Nike after a couple of years with Adidas. They also tweeted that they were having a launch day party on campus at 4 o'clock today with all of their merchandise available for purchase. Why does Rutgers get that treatment, but Auburn doesn't? And it's a weird answer, but it's a simple answer. Auburn is a Nike school. Auburn is directly partnered with Nike. Rutgers is not. Rutgers is wearing Nike uniforms that they purchased through BSN. BSN has a couple of these deals where they kind of do the middleman for these smaller schools. I'm not saying Rutgers is a small school, but they're not the biggest powerhouse in the world.
The SEC, right?
But you see that for like UAB, UTSA, Cincinnati even is signed with BSN, at least when they first joined Nike and Jordan. I think they might have re-signed with actually Nike instead. But think of BSN like you're walking into Dick's Sporting Goods. BSN has deals with these companies that might not be all three of them, but you can walk into Dick's Sporting Goods and there's an Under Armour section, there's an Adidas section, and there's a Nike section. You can walk in there, pick out what products you want. You can buy one of all three if you wanted to. That's kind of what Rutgers did. Rutgers said, we're going to work with BSN, and now we get to pick what we want to wear. They chose to wear Nike. I don't know if Nike has to approve that. I have no idea how that process works. But what that means apparel-wise, Nike produces the Auburn apparel in their warehouses and ships it out to the retail stores. BSN, on the other hand, purchases blank apparel items from Nike, puts it in their warehouse, and then the team orders from BSN. BSN just sends them the blanks. Now, Rutgers, at some point in this production cycle, again, I'm not very well versed on all of this, but Rutgers is now responsible for taking those designs and actually printing the shirts.
Yeah.
So it's an apples to orange comparison, but it's a good context to know with this as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I was going to bring it up if you didn't. That's certainly something that was an attention grabber today. On top of this, it kind of added to that we're missing out on something thing. But here's the thing. Auburn's always been a school that's done things in a unique way, whether you like it or not. And we're just going to continue, even with our start with a just global brand like Nike. But, whether you agree with how it's done or not, it's here. July 25th is the day to keep in mind. Certainly, as always, we would encourage you to support people in their affiliate links like Clint, who'll be sharing all those links out. And just keeping you informed on where you can find stuff that you're looking for. And here, let's be honest, Clint, there's already been some leaks and things like that just through back channels, and there will continue to probably be some more. So stay tuned with at Clint AU24. Almost messed it up there, Clint.
Yeah, and we'll bounce off of that real quick. So
go ahead.
Last night, the coaching staffs got their apparel. So we saw some leaks late last night, a couple hours before midnight, of coaching staffs and whatever sharing their stuff. We've seen that more today. There are a couple of product images that have been posted on auburntigers.com. I've grabbed all of those, and they are on auburnuniforms.com/Nike. And that's going to be your headquarters for everything Nike uniforms with Auburn. So
there you go.
We're going to have live coverage whenever it happens, and photo galleries and links where you can buy all of these products when they are made available.
Absolutely. So keep up to date with that. AuburnUniforms.com/Nike for all your needs there. So here's what we're going to do. for the rest of the stream. We've got a couple major topics. Some of y'all have already asked them, and so you can continue to ask your questions. We do want to keep this still in a Q&A style of things, but there are major topics still within this Auburn and Nike launch that we need to discuss. Some of them are repeats. Some of them will get repeatedly asked even after this day. But let's go ahead and probably ask the question, Clint, that's going to be asked the most, and I'll bring a few people who've already asked it up. Orange jerseys. Will we get a few alternate uniforms like orange helmets, orange jerseys, orange pants? We've got other questions about solid color uniforms. So we can take these one by one, or we can just tackle the topic in general. Auburn just began with Nike. What are we thinking? Alternate stuff.
So there's two things that you need to think about with this. One, we just started. We don't even have apparel in stores. We don't even have the spring sports uniforms in shop right now. There's your inside baseball there. This is such an undertaking, as we mentioned earlier. Your goal is just to outfit season one.
Mm-hmm.
So while it's always possible that they could have snuck in an alternate jersey, it's not a priority. They've got to get everything. I mean, we've talked about it before that it usually takes about 1.5 to 2 years to completely redo something like this. And we're doing it in 14, 15 months. So this is an expedited schedule for this for most parts. So I don't think you're going to on that front. Also, this is the part that I've preached for years. Auburn is the reason that Auburn has not worn orange jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Under Armour. It's not Nike. It's not Russell. I can tell you for a fact that Under Armour pitched and produced at the very least samples of these alternate uniforms. An orange jersey showed up on eBay a couple of months ago that was stitched up with Tim Hawthorne's name and number.
Wow, that's a throwback.
Why would you do a sample with Tim Hawthorne? Was that part of the entire collection of the team that just hasn't been released ever since? Who knows? Was it a fan-made stuff? No idea. The blue helmets from 2010 against Clemson, that was a sample. That was real. That was taken in the Auburn Athletics room. There's all sorts of stuff. And have you ever seen them on the field? No. It's not because Under Armour didn't try. It's not that Nike won't try. It's that Auburn has always said no. The team it's the school's brand. It's the team's brand. You have to protect your brand and make sure that you embrace your brand. You do what is best for your school, your brand, all that kind of stuff. And Auburn has always said no. And the people who are still in charge, who has said no for the last 20, 30 plus years, are still there.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a lot of stakeholders, whether they're boosters, trustees, wealthy alumni, whatever. Who is making these decisions is kind of up in the air, but that approval process has continued to say no. Now, what does Nike bring to the table that's a little different? I think Nike has probably two advantages here. One, Nike probably has better designers, and they are able to actually produce a better product. Maybe that convinces Auburn to do something different. And number two, I think Nike might have better salespeople on their team. And it's all about the pitch when you get the sample in front of the team and the stakeholders. You want to sell them that they can wear this and that it's the right choice for them to do it. I think Nike has a better ability to do that. And with their full track record of what they've done over the last 20, 30 years, it might not be outlandish. It's not going to be a pro combat kind of look. It's not going to be, Maryland's flag uniforms. It's not going to be anything Oregon. I still think if Auburn was to do something different, it would be classy, tasteful, traditional, maybe a throwback of some sorts instead of, going like Tennessee and going with the smoky gray alts, or Florida with their gator skin alternate uniforms. Don't think you have to worry about that. We just have to see what Auburn wants to do. Now, in the last 4 years, we've seen Auburn introduce the alternate the alternate face mask. What does that mean? I have no idea. Personally, I think that inched the door open just slightly to tell people like you, Kyle, that change is different, but it's not awful.
Right.
It's not the worst thing in the world. If you can stomach a white face mask, if you can stomach an orange face mask, you might be able to stomach an orange jersey or blue pants. I have no idea where that's going, but that's just my gut feeling that let's make a small change here and there. Let's inch that door open a little bit, and then we can kind of go for something bigger. Personally, I've always thought that one game a year for a throwback style uniform is the perfect option. Let's do it on a homecoming. Let's do it on a cupcake game. Let's do it on a game where tickets are $5 a piece and families are able to bring the entire family. And it's not going to be on ABC. It's essentially what an old pay-per-view or a Jefferson Pilot game used to be. But it's, we're not going to do it on the national stage. We're not going to be like Oregon and just get rid of all our school colors in a national championship game. Mm-hmm. We're going to honor Auburn's history, do it in front of the Auburn family and the Auburn family only, and that's it. Yeah. Your uniform has an opportunity to tell the history of your program. Auburn has a very rich football program and actually a very rich football uniform history. Now, part of that is that the last 60, 70 years have been the same uniform for the most part. But let's go back further, and we can tell the story of, we told the story of Pat Sullivan in 2019. We can tell the story of Bo Jackson with the orange face mask if they wanted to tie that to it. We can tell the story of Mike Donahue and go back to a 1913, or Jack Mara in a 1939 green jersey. Might be a little too much, but that's kind of the point. Let's tell the history of Auburn football in this program, and let's do it in an aesthetic way. Let's do it with the uniforms, and if it works, cool. Let's keep going. If not, who cares? You still won the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully.
Well, obviously, as you reference, I am a traditionalist, and I am not one to accept change very readily. But as I said about my feelings about the switch to Nike to Under Armour, I have always recognized that what I want is maybe not what's best for the program. I do love your pitch of honoring the history of Auburn. So maybe if there's any Nike salesman listening, not that Clint's obviously got a lot of faith in your salesmanship already, but maybe if you use that to pitch it to the powers that be, you can get those alternates. And
be like all the other media members this week. Hit me up and I can help you get your story right.
Exactly. There you go. So we can certainly utilize Clint in a variety of ways. I recognize.
Dalton, clip that for me, please.
There you go. But so what I heard is orange jerseys this season. That's what you said, right?
Clip Absolutely that. Not.
That's what he said. Everybody clip it.
Don't clip that one.
I know. So obviously, I think for those of you that are hoping for alternate jerseys, patience is key. But it does sound like that, as you kind of painted the picture, there's steps being made towards that. And with a new era, there may be new opportunities to revive and encourage those that have been with power, because I have no power. Now, heaven forbid I ever get that power, because it ain't changing. I'll tell you that much. But we'll see how that shakes out over the time being. No alternates right now, but certainly I guess you'd say the landscape looks fertile for potentially that coming up.
Well, and I'm going to pivot off of that real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
One of the other questions that have been asked all week is, what does this mean for non-football programs? Mm-hmm. So there was a comment earlier. I think it was Corey. Don't quote me on that, but look it up. Talking about the soccer uniforms.
Yep.
This is the perfect opportunity to hit reset on soccer. This is where I'm very curious to see where Auburn's non-football programs go. Soccer has worn essentially the same design since 2014. It's a sash right across the front. Actually, it goes this way. And it's the Northwestern stripes. There's the Auburn and the number underneath right in the middle. It's gone through a couple of iterations, a couple of different sizes of the stripes, one that it only was on the bottom half for some stupid reason. But that's the Auburn soccer look right now. Do they hit reset, or do they continue on with this look that they've clearly liked? and you've got a new soccer head coach. So what does Armstrong want to do? What is this program going to look like this year? We don't have to wait long. The first game is what, mid-August, I think. First exhibition or something. I don't have a clue.
Exhibition started in like first week of August, I believe.
Okay, well there you go. So you've got soccer who has really settled on a look. You've got baseball who has kind of flip-flopped. You know, you look at 2009 to 2012, that Creed Simpson era with the really weird stripes on the shoulders and the armpits. It was not a very good look, to what they've worn the last 3 years of just the script word mark, and it's one color on a base color jersey. Very simple, very classic. Softball has kind of done the same thing. They've kind of built their brand of softball uniform with a simple design, but they're going to go out and mix and match as much as possible. What about volleyball? Volleyball's bounced back and forth between tank tops and lawn sleeves with stripes on the sleeve horizontally or vertically or on the torso or everywhere. So, or even basketball. Basketball's gone from, you know, kind of some outlandish designs in the early 2010s to very classic and traditional to what we've worn the last couple of years now. So where do we go from here? Do we hit the reset button and go wild or go simple? Are we going to kind of go with what's trendy right now, and simple but classy stripes are what's trendy right now in sport design? Or do we go outlandish and do something crazy? Or do they stick with what's been working? That's the bigger question for me when it comes to Auburn uniforms under Nike. I almost said Under Armour.
Oh, it's going to take a little while to get used to that, Clint. It's going to take a minute to get that out of you. Like I told you and joked about, I kind of purposely, but kind of forgot I was wearing an Under Armour shirt when I started the day today. So I was like, I can't do that. It'll get everybody riled up. No, I love the fertile ground that apparently is there for the other sports. And certainly soccer may be a good example of something that definitely needs a little bit of a refresh. New era means new opportunities, whether you want them or not, in every sport. And we'll see how it shakes out. You can keep your questions coming. I still got a few saved here, some topics, things. I know this is one we touch on a lot, Clint, but it is a subject that comes up with this. And I know it's not your favorite topic in the world, but I'm going to do it anyway, just because that's what I love to do, is to mess with you. This is from Felix. He's a regular for us. He says, I really believe that recruits get turned off if they're not wearing the end uniforms. You get what I'm saying? So I probably have the most to say here, but I'll obviously give Clint the floor as well. I cannot stress this enough. So many of you have been sold a narrative that the switch to Nike is going to somehow magically amp up recruiting even more than it already has been over the collective story of Auburn. Does it matter for some recruits? 100%. They're in the vast, thousands every year, it feels like, of recruits. There's got to be one person there that says, you know what, I'm only going to a Nike school. But my question to you is, do you really want that person? That's my take on it. If that's
question
what
I posed to you years ago.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking my stance.
Well, it's just the way that things go for you sometimes, you know.
Okay.
But I don't want that person. I not necessarily just because of that fact, but that makes me question some other things. Now, I want to say this clearly again. I do not ignore that it can help or hurt your cause, but 99% of the time, it does not matter. Some of y'all have been sold this. Some of y'all regurgitate this information you got off message boards, and it is not true. There is no statistical facts to point towards somebody is greater than that. So my favorite one, Clint.
Sorry, pull up Blake. Yep, Blake.
Let me finish my point. My favorite one is that more teams have won in Nike than anybody else. I'm like, because there's more Nike teams out there. So like, that's just proportions. That's not a. So anyway, let's see. Unbeaten Lake says we lost a recruit on the day we joined Nike. We also got a transfer portal person. So
we're even.
We're even. Dead
We're
even.
batting 500.
Dead even.
Okay, cool.
I said this today too. I woke up wanting to be really toxic and have a lot of fun and just say, somebody sold me. We're gonna have all these recruits the day that Nike came, and nothing's happened yet. And then we got a transfer portal, and then we lost. What I was like, well, what can you have in this day and age? Anyway, I know I've said a lot here, and I know a lot of people very vehemently disagree with my take on that. Anything you want to add to that, or if I said it all?
You said a lot, that's for sure.
Probably none of it true.
So here's Kyle and I share a very similar stance with this, and I don't follow recruiting, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about here. Brands matter. Yes, I'm wearing a New Era hat because I like how it fits. I wear Nike shoes because I like how they fit, and I know what I'm getting when I buy them. Is it worth spending your college years kind of testing out apparel or uniforms you don't really know how you're going to perform in? That's up for debate. But also, it's just a t-shirt. It's just a uniform. Uniforms don't have superpowers. I think uniforms can be built to help you perform better.
Yep.
We can have that conversation.
Yep.
But if we're only worried about what brand and logo is on the front of the shirt, I think you're missing the point. And based off your conversation or your point that you were trying to make about, I don't want a brand whore player. As I said before, like if there's a list that I want my son, my daughter, my friend who's an athlete, my student who is being recruited, if there's a list that they're going off of, I want them to have playing time, education, professors, degree options, financials. There's a long list of things that I want that athlete to be mindful of long before they get to the uniform brand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you've got two things that are equal, if you've got Auburn Nike and Auburn Under Armour, and they're 100% equal in all things, sure, let it be your deciding factor. I'm fine by that. But again, there's how many recruits every year in every sport. We don't see that. And I want to throw out Justin Ferguson with the Auburn Observer posted a really, really good newsletter today that really, to me, proved how not great of a writer I am. Because I'm reading this like, this is what a professional writer looks like. Because Justin just nailed almost everything that I have thought and have been trying to say for the last 2 months and put on paper or put on camera like we're doing right now. And I do think, as Wardam ATL said, Nike's footwear is very superior to Under Armour. That's been no secret for years. Under Armour's pride has kind of gotten in the way of that, let's be honest. But beyond that, it's just an overpriced polyester t-shirt. You know?
Yeah.
And so let's go back to Ferg. Ferguson said, recruiting is so different today with NIL that it's just a completely different monster. That kid is not going to pick your school because of the brand you wear. They're going to pick the school because that has the best NIL program or the best playing time. So with NIL, the slot on that list that brand plays has dropped even further, I believe. Again, there's not a whole lot of data on this, and I'm not a recruiting follower at all. So there's probably other people who are better versed in this than I am. I'm not going to say that this kid who's being recruited is not thinking that. He's an 18-year-old kid. Of course he's thinking about the brand that he gets to wear for the next 4 years, hopefully. But it's not going to be a deciding factor. Or it's not going to be a deciding factor for every single player.
Right.
Is it going to improve slightly? It's possible. But is it worth moving your house 10 times over to catch that one recruit? I think that's where that conversation is misguided. That we have to have the best apparel. I've always thought the facilities conversation was overtalked. But I've also been spoiled being here in Auburn, being an Auburn fan, seeing these amazing facilities. Not everybody has this stuff. Not everybody has a Jordan Hare or an Auburn Arena or Neville Arena or
Whoa.
Plainsman Park or Jane B. Moore. And it didn't really sink into me until I went to Ole Miss this year for baseball.
Mhm.
That Swayze Field, and I'm sorry, Randy, if you're listening to this, it's not great.
Mm.
And what has Ole Miss done? Won titles. They've got one of the best baseball programs in the country, and they're doing it with subpar facilities.
Mhm.
So anybody who's telling you that these arms race of apparel of facilities are the be all end all for everything, it's misguided.
Right.
It's just not true. It's a
Right.
genie in a bottle. It's a golden coin. It's a silver bullet. There's
Yeah.
a lot of factors that go into where you're going to play your college athletic years.
Mhm.
And let's not boil it down to the logo on your shirt.
Yeah, and just to round out the conversation, I think we've fleshed that one out fully. But I think maybe where the conversation should go, and does it affect recruiting and how much so, is think about what it does beyond just selling a recruit. Maybe it's a better financial situation. There's been talk that Under Armour it's been losing schools, thus would indicate maybe there's people less confident in its future. Thus, if you're moving to a brand that is very secure, it's been around forever, it's been with the biggest athletes around, that you're in a better financial situation, at least in terms of you're not saddling yourself with a company that may go under at some point, even if it doesn't appear that that's the case at
And
this
can
time.
I stop you there?
Sure, go ahead.
Nike is actually in a little bit of a downfall themselves.
There you go.
We're not going to see the Under Armour fall from, the stock options that Auburn got paid in 2015 are always a big topic. Auburn got paid $10 million in Under Armour stock at the height of Under Armour's stock price at almost $60 a piece. Currently, it's trading at $6 a piece, $7, depending on what day you look at. And that changes that $10 million to like 1.2 or 800,000. It's, that kind of range.
Yeah.
So Nike has actually fallen. You're actually seeing Boston College is actually now going to be wearing New Balance uniforms.
I saw
Did you
that.
ever think you'd see the day?
No.
In 2000, UConn wore Aeropostale uniforms. So,
Okay.
there's a cycle.
Yeah.
This is a fashion cycle in a sense, but you've got Lululemon, you've got OnCloud, you've got, God, I don't even know who else is in this industry anymore. But
It's so
there's
many. I didn't even know that
so
last
many
one.
brands that have footholds in shoe wear, in clothing apparel. Maybe they branch out into uniforms. Who knows? Under Armour was not supposed to be a uniform manufacturer when they were founded. Neither was Nike, for that fact.
Right.
So, you asked earlier, what does Auburn look like with this deal after 10 years? I got asked earlier, where do we look in 30 years? It's like, I don't know who's up and coming. I don't know who the next Under Armour is.
Right.
And if they're actually got staying power.
Right.
So there's just a lot that goes into this kind of stuff, and it can't ever be boiled down to one specific thing. Again, whether for recruiting or why Auburn went with Nike.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing.
And Lake, I agree with you. I do think Fanatics will probably branch out beyond what they're doing right now.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you knew about or knew what he was talking about.
I know nothing. I know nothing. I am an affiliate. I appreciate Fanatics for what they are. I think they're getting really too close to some monopoly stuff that I think will probably have to get shut down soon enough.
Well, there you go. There's another little inside scoop we weren't expecting there. Maybe off of this, and you guys can continue if there's other topics we haven't hit yet, specifically if you just arrived. We've kind of hit some of the major ones, but feel free to ask. This one you and I have talked about, I think it was about not last time we were together, but the time before that, but let's hit it again. Would there be a conflict of interest with a Nike NIL deal situation? And I think we've got one that's a good example. If I'm not mistaken, Tahad Pettiford signed with Under Armour.
Correct.
And what could you remind folks that haven't heard this before? Or what would be your take on that issue in terms of you're signed with this brand, the school's brand is this? What do you think?
So we actually have some good evidence of how this might go.
Okay.
I'm still interested in how this is going to play out because, again, NIL is just a wild west right now. So I think you're going to see this play out exactly like the NFL, like professional athletes who had their own apparel brands. So Tom Brady was an Under Armour athlete, but he had to wear a Nike jersey. Under Armour posted photos of him in his Nike uniform with the Nike logo on it. It's a little weird, but that's just how this works. I do think Cooper Flagg is a New Balance athlete, but he had to wear Nike at Duke. So you're actually probably going to see soon enough schools not sign head to toe every single program contracts with apparel providers anymore. You might see them do like the NBA. Nike, you are going to outfit our players in their uniform. Jersey, shorts, base layer, shooting sleeves, whatever. But their footwear is on their own. They can do whatever they want. Now we can build in some clauses into that contract about, is it allowed to be shown? Do they have to cover that logo up? Is the school allowed to post those images? I'll tell you this. Cam Coleman, he wore Nike cleats last year. But you won't see a photo of that at all. So I think you might see the same thing with Tahad. I think as far as his NIL stuff, he will be an Under Armour athlete. So when he is at home, he can post anything he wants to wearing Under Armour. He could probably still post wearing an Auburn Nike t-shirt. That's on his deal. And it's all going to be subject to those individual deals as well. But when he's doing something officially as an Auburn basketball player, he's going to be wearing Nike.
Yeah. And this even relates to the subject of, and I guess I either blanked on this fact or things like that. You know, Bruce Pearl apparently loves to use, I forget which brand it is, but a certain brand of basketball because that's what's used in the tournaments. And I think you even pointed out today that in the video, you maybe purposely didn't see a Nike basketball. So,
well, and in those videos, I jumped the gun because the women's basketball team posted their video and focused on the basketball
very clearly,
the swoosh on it, very clear. I jumped the gun and said that both programs would be using it. I quickly got reminded that apparently, and I don't know if this is true or not, that Bruce may or may not have a stipulation in his contract that the team is going to use the official basketball that is the NCAA ball. Fair, I get that. Then a couple hours later, the men's basketball program posts the same video. You don't see the basketball. You see, I don't even know who the player was. It's one of the new guys, and I don't know any of the new players. His hand is covering the logo. I think it's probably a Wilson ball that they've been using for the last couple of years, but I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a group on Auburn Twitter, a group of fans that track Auburn's shooting percentage and win-loss record and points scored depending on what basketball we're playing with.
Right.
And football is different because each team provides their footballs. Basketball, you play with the home team's basketball. So if Auburn travels to Georgia, they're playing with a Nike basketball. If they play at, I don't know, South Carolina, they're probably playing with an Under Armour basketball. You've also got Spalding basketballs and Wilson basketballs. And if it's true that Bruce uses the ball that is in the NCAA tournament, I think that's great. I was also told today that apparently Purdue will play with one style of ball most of the year, and then like 2 weeks before the tournament, just switch to the tournament ball.
Yeah.
I don't have a clue how they actually practice this. If they do have a batch of each ball so that they can practice in their home gym, I'm sure they do. But yeah, it's stuff like that. I have no idea how this is going to work.
You know, here's the crazy thing about this. I think that's a perfect example. And I know we're getting into more broader topics now, but just with this whole Auburn, Under Armour, and Nike thing, it is just, it goes deep, deeper than you thought it would.
Again, it's not as simple as swapping the logo on the shirt.
That's a great way just to kind of like pinpoint everything today. All right, keep any other comments and questions coming. I've still got a bunch that we can roll through here. There was, let's do this, Clint, because I do want to give you some space if we haven't said it already. I know you mentioned it a little bit, but this is the end of Under Armour officially as of midnight last night.
Yep.
And we're celebrating Nike today, but certainly we're only here because that ended. I felt like, and I think you expressed as well, that Auburn did a great job of honoring their contract and honoring the relationship. And is there anything that you'd like to add to that, or just thoughts about just the ending of the Auburn and Under Armour dynamic?
I think that both companies actually played this very professionally, and there's been some stories behind the scenes that it might not have always gone that way. I can tell you that Under Armour had basically spies in town looking for any reason whatsoever to cancel the remainder of that contract. That a couple of years ago, some of the coaches were spotted wearing on clouds on the plane, or Auburn posted photos of players walking onto the planes to fly to games wearing non-Under Armour gear. And it's such a gray area when it comes to these contracts of, does that warrant canceling this whole thing? So again, Under Armour was in a bad financial spot in a couple of times. They know that they're on their way out. They were looking to save that money, I guess. But it didn't happen. Under Armour still promoted Auburn when they made the Final Four. You saw the gold logos on the jerseys. And somebody else mentioned this to me earlier, that they thought it was a slight that Under Armour just sent Auburn those logos and Auburn had to sew them on. I think that's normal. I'm not sure, but I think that's a standard practice.
Sure.
So, there's still a legally binding contract that says y'all had to work together. And it's been 2 years since Auburn said to Under Armour, we're probably not coming back, guys. Yeah. It's been 15 months since they said, we're definitely not coming back, guys. So I think it was a very professional publicly. Auburn posted a really nice video last night, kind of deucing out with Under Armour, and I thought that was a very classy way to do it. I think it was just it's done. We're going to shake hands and move on, and we can still say hi when we see each other in the airport.
Yeah. It feels a little bit like that amicable divorce where you still got to see each other because one of your kids is there. Tahad Pettiford is a great example of that if we want to think about it.
Well, and I think that was actually a very smart deal by Under Armour.
Yeah.
Here's a kid who is probably going to do really well professionally. Yeah. He had a chance to go this year. If he gets it into the NBA and he's wearing our stuff, awesome. If not, we now have a legit reason to support Auburn in this lame duck year and beyond. We can still support an Auburn athlete and not an Auburn team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does make sense. So obviously the relationship is ended. It was, whether you want to see it or not, there were some very high moments in that period, but that time is done. Auburn and Nike is the future, whether you like it or not. Let's take some more questions here. We've got this one. Will we see a certain company do one sport and another company in another sport at the same school, or will it always be a total school? What do you take on that?
It's a school by school basis. So Baylor actually does this. Baylor baseball, at least a couple of years ago, I don't know if they're still doing this. Baylor baseball wore Under Armour. Baylor men's basketball wore Adidas. Baylor women's basketball wore Nike. Baylor football wears Nike. We mentioned Boston College earlier. They had signed, I guess 2 years ago, a athletic department wide deal with New Balance. It's set for football. Football wore Adidas until this year. I'm very curious to know what happened there. That was always the plan, or if New Balance just wasn't up to stuff with their football uniform stuff. But you might see that more in this new age. I think especially with NIL, again, we've got NIL and we've got profit sharing that we have to cover our butts on. So if Auburn basketball can go get, let's just throw out numbers. I have no idea what these mean. If Auburn basketball can go get $3 million by signing with Nike, and Auburn football can get $6 million with Under Armour. Cool. That covers your portion of that profit sharing.
Mhm.
Maybe we see that. I think you might see some schools do that. That's just a gut feeling at this point.
Yeah, it would be a really weird dynamic to officially see that happening in some capacity, but maybe that's a way it happens. Again, we asked the question, what happens in 10 years after this deal? We don't know, but there's so much has changed in college sports just between years.
Well,
who knows what's going to happen?
So there's always this jacket that I see that people are always begging for, and it's a Ping branded jacket. Do the golf teams sign with Ping? Do they sign with Titleist? Is Titleist now going to provide them polos, slats, and shoes? I don't know. Are we going to see athletic teams turn NASCAR and get sponsors?
Yeah.
We might. We might. There's talk from some schools that they're trying to sell advertisement space on their jerseys. I hope to God that doesn't happen.
You want to talk about us all being
in my ass.
They say, look, you want to talk about us all being united as one, and the Auburn.
We will be united as one.
That we will come for you.
Yes. And I will lead that charge.
Yeah, I would say Clint will be there with the brightest torch and then a pitchfork so sharp you won't even know, just so that he can save himself some work.
I don't want that work. It's also gross. That's a different topic for a different day, though.
Yeah, different topic for another day. Okay, we typically stay on here for about an hour. Clint is tired, so I'm not going to force him to stay on any longer. But let me do this part again. I think we've covered the majority of the questions. If you have not asked something, even if it's a kind of a retread, we might be able to rehash it again if you just got here. But go ahead and drop that in. By the way, I wanted to bring this up at the end. War Dustbuster Clint.
Absolutely,
there you go.
Corey.
So let me do this part. This has been a big day for Auburn. It's been a big day for Clint. It's been a big day for the Auburn Uniform Database. So this is your space, Clint. If you've even begun to think about that, what is the next days, weeks, months, years? What is your vision for what you're going to be trying to provide people in your Auburn uniforms, aesthetics, and history coverage? I know it's a big question, but just whatever you want people to know, this is what they get when they come to you, because this is the day that certainly you have been preparing for.
Yep. Man, it's the one thing that we didn't get to talk about today was the actual uniform designs, because they haven't been released. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to get those starting tomorrow. I don't know what we're going to get. If you're hoping for football uniforms today, it's not going to happen. Just stay by your phone, turn on post notifications from me. We might be able to cover it, but starting, in a week or two, once we actually get a lot of content out on these uniforms, you will see very in-depth breakdown articles and social media posts from me and the Auburn Uniform Database detailing everything. The catchphrase right now is every uniform, every detail. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be as well educated about stitching patterns and applications as you never wished you would be. So there's a lot to go over. And I don't even have the information. I can't prep for anything. So That's my biggest frustration right now. But I mean, I'm in the same boat as everybody. And I'm just as excited to see it. I'm excited to get this work over with, because July is going to be stupid busy. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot coming. So stay tuned to auburnuniforms.com. Hit me up on socials if you've got any ideas for how I can showcase things a little differently. I'm always open. If you've got a specific question about why does this jersey look this way, we can dive deeper into those kind of oddities and some rabbit holes that you didn't know existed.
Yeah. So obviously he's open to suggestions, and that's what we do as content creators. We certainly do something that we enjoy, but we want to make sure that you're enjoying it as well. So offer suggestions, hit that follow button at Clint AU24, auburnuniforms.com, auburnuniforms.com/Nike. And certainly we'll be sharing some of Clint's stuff out as we get a little bit of that information too. I know today wasn't the mega day in terms of releases and things that everybody wanted, but it begins. That's the headline. It begins today, Auburn and Nike, and it's going to be a fun ride to cover this for at least the next 10 years. Here's a quick question. How do you feel about that stripe going all the way up the leg? You messed up. WT is just, he is been messed up. He will not stop talking about since you messed him up, showing that didn't go up all the way to the leg.
Well, I told you that there was something else coming. You're going to hate it even more.
That's all I'm getting. That's all I'm getting. No, Clint. No.
Let's just say this. It's been in plain sight for 30 plus years and nobody has ever noticed it. And I'm about to ruin everybody's good time.
I'm trying to dig here a little bit. Are you saying something is leaving?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. I was going to say, well, I'm extremely nervous because the traditionalist in me is just worried to death about what you're even referring to.
You're going to look at it and think, how the hell did nobody see this?
Wait a minute.
Fits it.
Wait a minute. Have we talked about this before?
I don't believe we have.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I guess, is that all I'm going to get out of you for that little bit of a tease?
It is.
All right. Well, there you go. Something to look forward to with Clint. And man. All right, here you go. Real quick. We should use orange stockings like in the NFL uses them.
I would not be upset if the NFL gave up their sock rules or the NCAA adopted them. Socks are a stupid Wild West right now. I hate it. I do wish that, I go back to the 2015 season when we played Louisville.
Yeah.
I loved the orange gloves, base layers, socks, cleats. I thought it looked great. Some people didn't. Kind of curious what that would look like with an orange face mask now. But some consistency with the hosiery, I think would actually look pretty decent. But that is a losing battle that nobody's ever going to win this year.
We didn't think, a lot of us didn't think that this day would come, Clint. So I wouldn't say that battles can't be won. Here we sit, July 1st, 2025. Auburn and Nike are official, and it is Clint's Super Bowl. And I don't know how he tops this one. If
WT is with me against you, it's stirrups, baby. Take that, Kyle.
Listen, WT is on record for how much he loves to get my goat. So he loves to just say things just to get me stirred up, just to watch.
That one is such a deep dive and a deep cut. I don't know if he knew about that one. Anthony, can you pull up Anthony's comment real quick? No idea. You'll see him when I see him.
He asked, how do the guys' cleats look if you have seen them? So he like Clint has said a lot of these things he still hasn't seen yet. And Clint's got his little sources and things like that. But, anyway, final thoughts, Clint. A year in the making, over a year in the making, really decades in the making since you've been, wondering if you'd ever get something mega like this to talk about. Final thoughts.
It's been 12 years. Actually, it's 12 years in like 2 weeks. The AUD turns 12 soon. This is the biggest thing, and it's only going to stay big because we don't have uniforms yet, and we've got to cover the uniforms still.
Yeah.
And for 2 days, from kind of yesterday, the end of the era, to today, the beginning of an era, if this is anything to go off of, it's going to be a long month.
All right. Well, once again, Corey asking where to get more info, auburnuniforms.com/Nike. And
he didn't ask you, he asked me.
I listened. Dude,
but I appreciate you teeing me up, Corey. At Auburn Uniforms on Facebook and Instagram, at Clint AU24 on Twitter, auburnuniforms.com. You can find all of it right there. And that
There you-
includes affiliate links for when products get released.
Yes. And if you want to support Clint and his work, that is one of the easiest way that you can do that. If you're going to be purchasing something anyway, you might as well go through the links.
You're gonna shop. You're gonna shop. Help me out.
Help a brother
Let
out.
me
That's
get
what they
some
say.
money out of this and go click ads on my site. Can I say
All
that?
right. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
Google didn't hear that one.
I don't know if that's going to mess me up in some way. All right, Clint. Well, I'm very happy for you this day. I'm happy for all the Auburn fans that have begged and pleaded and waited for this day. It has arrived. You are here, and we move into the next decade of Auburn and Nike. We'll do this again in a decade, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not.
God, I hope not.
I hope not. With that being said, everybody, thank you so much for joining us, hanging out with us, and spending some time being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
Thanks, guys. War Eagle.